Welcome back to the Team to Be Miami Heat podcast, your one-stop shop for daily Miami Heat content. My name is Amir. Coach Gio is back on the podcast. We both predicted that the Miami Heat would beat the Atlanta Hawks, which they did. We said if they did, we're going to get back on and we're going to do either a post-game or a preview or whatever it may be during the Cavaliers and Miami Heat series. And so game one, the Miami Heat lost 121-120. Tough game. Cleveland Cavaliers are the number one seed, 60-something wins. They're the number one rated offensive team in the regular season, and it showed. The Heat it was a pretty close game for the discrepancy between a technical 10 seed and the number one seed, but it just was pretty bad in the fourth quarter where Ty Jerome scored 16 of his 28 points in the fourth quarter. Other than that, though, the Heat were within single digits in striking distance until that fourth quarter. So we could touch upon that real quick, Gio. But I want to talk to you specifically about tomorrow and adjustments, both defensively and offensively. I know defensively, the Heat were pretty terrible. So we'll focus on that. But just what were your overall thoughts on game one? And where do you think the Miami Heat can improve moving forward?
Yeah, so offensively, let's start there. So offensively, although they did shoot a great percentage, from the field and from 3-point, the shot quality wasn't the greatest. Cleveland just completely did not allow them to get enough looks inside the paint. Although in the second half, Miami was getting there a little bit easier, they were not able to convert. That just goes to show you, that their two bigs allows the the three other players, even though they're not elite defensive players, and those players I'm referring to are Strus, Garland, and Mitchell, they're able to be more aggressive because they know they got two 7-footers back there that can back them up. So definitely they got to free up Tyler, but this is not something. This is not any new coverages. Miami's seen these coverages. Tyler has seen them. I think this was more so a question of a team that was fresher, that is the first seed, that has more talent, and Miami just looked a little bit run down. Tyler was not able to shake loose. Their point of attack defense was not good, other than Davion in spurts. But they went at Tyler about 36 possessions, and I think they scored 64 points out of those 36 possessions, which was crazy. They
Mm-hmm.
left him out on an island. And I think they'll make some adjustments. I kind of know what some of those adjustments might be, but this is a question, in my opinion, of Spo not showing them everything. I think Spo understands we're not going to get two against his team. I don't think he outright says that, but I think he knows his team well enough to know their deficiencies and knows that he can't show Cleveland everything.
Yeah, and we talked offline because I wasn't able to watch. I watched the game, but I couldn't pay attention 100%. Do you think he's going to throw the zone again in game two and focus on that and saying, let's see if Ty Jerome and what is the other guy's name? Merrill, whatever that guy's
Sam
name is.
Merrill, Sam
Sam
Merrill.
Merrill or Morrill. Is he going to be okay with letting those guys beat us? Or do you think he's going to focus more on perhaps blitzing Donovan Mitchell on pick and rolls, focusing more on man-to-man coverage?
Well, I think it's going to be situational. What I mean by that, in terms of the zone, I think the only times that Spo will turn to the zone is if he ever has Tyler and Duncan on the floor at the same time. You just cannot roll out that lineup against this team that has a lot of triggers, a lot of guys that can create. Um, I also feel that Nico and Pele will get some run. I don't think they're going to get 30 minutes, but I do think those guys can get some run. Nico, because he can create and he can alleviate some of that pressure on Tyler on ball. Again, he has been out for a while, and I understand that he's a young guy. He's 21 years old, but he's Serbian. He's been in big games before. He's played in the Olympics. He's played in FIBA tournaments. And I think Pele gives you something that other guys don't. And what I mean by that is at the point of attack, right? Pele's 6'5". He's a little bit bigger than Davion. And we know Davion's a pest. We know he's probably the best point of attack defender on the team. But I do think that Pele has some ruggedness, some size that nobody really on the team has at that, similar height. Like we know Bam's the best defender on the team, but we don't necessarily want him nor need him to guard or Donovan, because he's going to be with Mobley and Allen. Another adjustment that I see is Spo switching the matchup with Ware and Bam. I think, at least in my opinion, I think Bam should guard Allen, and I think Ware should be on Mobley. The reason why is because most of the pick and roll triggers, or the person that was setting the screen, was Jared Allen. And I think involving Bam in that situation will kind of allow Miami to be a little bit more aggressive and fluid defensively, and not have to have Ware playing drop as much, so they can be a bit more aggressive on their coverages. But those are just some of the adjustments I think that they'll do defensively as well as offensively, maybe having Nico bring the ball up.
Yeah, I agree, because then Bam's a better decision maker defensively. He has more size and strength. I don't assume he's not going to get out of that drop. Like, he might show and go, perhaps, but even if he does show, though, he's a bigger presence, obviously a better defender than Khalil Ware. So I think that makes sense. But from the backcourt perspective, one of the adjustments everybody's been talking about, obviously, is starting Davion.
Yeah.
I'm assuming Spo is going to do that because, again, we said this during the play-in that my opinion, I asked you if you thought Davion was going to start against the Hawks, I believe, forgot your answer. But I was saying, though, when it comes to play-in, which is technically kind of like a playoff, a one-game playoff, and the playoffs, you play your best players, right? So I think Davion's going to come in. That's going to help in general with point of attack, but also slowing down that three-headed monster. So I can't believe I even said a three-headed monster, obviously, with Ty Jerome being that third guard that destroyed us. They scored 85 points between him, Garland, and Mitchell. Mitchell scored 30, and that was his sixth, I think, time scoring 30 in a first game of a series, and that ties Michael Jordan. They're the only two players that have done that. So he's going to get his, but we can't allow even Garland to get 29 points. Garland's having a good season, all-star type season, but you can't allow him to score more than like 20 points. And so my question is, how could we slow down Donovan and Darius? I'm not going to expect Ty to score 28 again, right? No. So I'm not going to even include that in there. Even if he's hot, maybe he can score 16, 17, 18. That's fine. But how do we stop Garland and Donovan Mitchell and not overcommit on them and giving up those open threes to those Ty Jeromes or the Morels or even a Mobley? Like, how do we stop those two guys specifically tomorrow?
So in this particular series, I'm not necessarily worried about Garland and Mobley. I'm sorry, about Mobley and Allen. I'm not. I think our bigs match up well against them. The issue in this series will be the backcourt. That's going to be the issue. They have the best player on the court, at least the person that should be. Even though Tyler had a better season efficiency-wise than Donovan did, we all know that Donovan can reach another level. I mean, this guy, for God's sake, scored 70 points in a game. But what I would do, the adjustment that I would do, similar to what Spo has done in the past, where in the playoffs, he actually rolls out different lineups. We saw that in the bubble when he rolled out Goran and he saved Goran for the playoffs. I think an adjustment that he can make is start Davion. I personally would put Davion on Donovan. He has historically given Donovan issues, although when he did give Donovan these issues, he was a little bit not as strong. Donovan has put on some muscle mass since then, and that's definitely a big factor. But I would personally put him on Donovan Mitchell, and I would put Wiggins on Garland. Now the reason why is because we know that Garland's going to get to his spots. They're going to set good screens, and he's going to play. He's going to do the snake dribble, the whole deal, the Nash dribble. I think Wiggins, because of his length, can kind of deter and at least give Garland, like, Garland has to look back and make sure, hey, Wiggs has a 7'2" wingspan. He can come in, recover, and block the shot. I personally would do that. I would have Tyler on Strus, and then if there's any like screens, because this is a difference, right? Boston, right? When they hunt Tyler, they hunt for him, then they go one-on-one. Okay, and then you're allowed to kind of play the nail and send help. Cleveland's very smart. What they're doing is they're hunting Tyler, and then once they get Tyler on them, then they use him in a screen because they want to tire him out. And I think that Miami can do pre-switching. There's definitely things that they can do to mitigate that a little bit, but I think it's irrelevant if you don't start Donovan. You have to start Donovan, and then on the bench, you would bring Pella in to kind of give him a blow.
For Donovan, you're thinking so
for Davion, correct?
Interesting. I was thinking about that too. So I don't know. I might think differently and put Wiggins on Mitchell perhaps because to start it off to see because of the length. He's 6'8", and Donovan Mitchell's only 6 feet, but that didn't seem to matter as you saw him score relentlessly in the paint, even on Kel'el Ware, even on Bam Adebayo. But still, I think I understand the concept because Davion has had good matchups against him. But I don't know, is Garland too quick for Wiggs? He just turned 30. He has a lower center of gravity. Obviously, that might be a little more difficult for him. I'm only thinking because of that. But again, I'm not too worried. I can go either way because again, Garland's a good player, but he's not finishing at the rim at a high clip like Donovan Mitchell, right? He's trying to do his step back, like 3-point shot, pick and roll game. So I can go either way, perhaps. But I don't know. I just think adding the length on Donovan Mitchell could be beneficial, but you're not going to stop him anyway, to your point. Like in the playoffs, he's their best player. He's going to get his buckets regardless of who's guarding him. But we still need to slow them down. So
Yes.
I agree, though. I think Davion should start. I agree that Pella should start play because there was no energy. They were like not diving for loose balls. They weren't
Mm-hmm.
boxing out effectively. I mean, they didn't get destroyed on the rebounding battle, but still, they obviously got out rebounded on the offensive glass, which has been a problem for the Miami Heat all year. The last few years, they've been bottom 5 in rebounding defensively. So I think him being in there is going to give you a tenacious, active defender who's going to try so goddamn hard, right? Like, just I
Yeah.
love Pella's passion out there. He's going to be willing to take a charge. I think that's the type of energy and intangibles that we need on the court. Just give him like 7-8 minutes and see what he can do. See if he's built for the moment. Because Kel'el Ware, no fault to his own, is a rookie,
Mm-hmm.
inexperienced. Like he just didn't look right out there. He looked like a rookie. So
Yeah.
I think Pella could be a better fit. Less expectation for him, I think, coming off the bench. So I like that. And Nico, do you think he takes over Slow-Mo's time so that if we have Davion coming in as a starter, we need a secondary ball handler off the bench. We need
Yeah.
to be better in transition. So does he come in as that point forward over Slow-Mo?
I mean, why not? I mean, when you traded Jimmy, you basically said we're gonna lean into the youth movement. Like, I love Kyle, I love Burks, but they're in their 30s. They're 31 and 33 respectively. They're great. They're good. They're solid NBA vets. But the reason you decided to push for this play in and to get into the playoffs is so that these young guys can get some run. So let's see what they're about. Nico's going to be eligible for an extension after next season. Give the man some minutes, play him, see how it plays out. Pele has been instrumental in this late season run. Like, why not give him the minutes? He has the girth to be able to, um, he has the strength to be able to battle it out with Donovan. He's not going to stop him. There's nobody in the league that can stop this man. But I think he's better suited to deter him. He's gonna hustle. He has the length, which is why part of the reason why I don't mind starting Davion, because you have another POA guy that you can bring off the bench that can slow him down, at least make things more difficult. You
Haywood?
asked me a question
Is
earlier
it
about sorry.
who's the point of attack on the bench? Is it Haywood you're referring to, or
No, Pele.
Pella? Okay, gotcha.
I personally, and I tweeted about this, I personally prefer at this stage in their careers, even though Haywood, he's still considered young, but he's really a vet. I would prefer having guys like Haywood and Wiggins guard wings. Just me personally, I prefer that. They're much more efficient as defenders and more effective as defenders doing that. But I really wouldn't mind bringing Pele in, throwing him in the fire, and seeing what he can do in terms of guarding Donovan. You have to lean defense. That's the only strength really you have here. Offensively, we're not going to blow anybody out of the water. So, especially if you're going to play Duncan, I wouldn't mind sitting Burks and let Pele be the first guy off the bench if you're going to start Davion.
Mm-hmm. I agree. So offensively, again, that's a struggle. Tyler played great in the first half, 17 points in the first half, I believe, only 4 in the second half. I remember the announcer saying that, like, in the fourth quarter, Tyler hadn't scored a bucket. The last bucket he scored was with 10 minutes to go in the third quarter until he finally scored in the fourth quarter. So struggled in that third. So not just for Tyler in general, but just offensively, what kind of actions or sets would you like to see more of in game two? So me personally, if he's off ball, the traditional flare screens that we did for Duncan and Max Strus when Max Strus was on the Heat. So I think that's going to be huge. And if he's on ball, maybe some drag screens or double drag screens, I think, just to get him more downhill. You mentioned that in the first half, like we couldn't get to the rack. And even if we did, it was contested. I think there's like a crazy stat that like the entire game, we had like 5 or 6 layup attempts. Everything else was mid-range and shot 33s. So what kind of actions would you like to see either from Tyler or just in general from the team offensively?
I like Spain pick and rolls. Personally, I think Miami's been effective in that. They've run some of that with Wiggs, with Tyler, with Bam.
What is it called?
Uh, Spain, the Spain
You
pick
break
and
that down?
rolls. Yeah, so essentially what'll happen is you'll see Tyler at the top, then you'll see Wiggs set a screen for Bam, which causes Bam to be undeterred as he sets a screen for Tyler. So that'll cause the defense to overreact. Either there's a switch there or Bam just goes alone, and then Tyler has an advantage where he can kind of just go and not have the helper help in time. And then, or you can run it a different way where Bam is setting a screen, and as he's setting a screen, Wiggins is setting a screen for his man.
Mm-hmm.
So there's several different ways to do it. There's a lot of different triggers that you can run from that. That's one that's successful. I think the flare screen, I think Cleveland already knows how to play that. I think that they're gonna shut that down. You're gonna have to go into your triggers. It's the playoffs, man. Like a lot of times you're just gonna have to go mano a mano and just score on your man. Ideally, you'd want Tyler and Bam to get to the line at least worst case 6 times a game, where they can just when things get tight, they can get to the line. Bam actually had 24, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah,
10 for 22, but he didn't get to the line enough. And he got all the shots he wanted. He just wasn't hitting them. I think he will continue to average above 20 points per game. Whenever he sees Mobley and Allen, his eyes just light up. So I think he'll consistently get you 20 every game. It's just who's the other guy outside of Tyler that's going to contribute.
exactly. What about inverted pick and roll?
I love
I
it.
know, I know we've seen a little bit of that, but like having Bam obviously in that inverted pick and roll with like Tyler Hero if Garland's guarding him or whoever it may be, like because we didn't put Garland, even Mitchell, even Strus in enough actions. I think. Like I think we like in the playoffs, it's all about matchups. There's nothing new here. You hunt every week offensive player. It happens to Luka during the regular season. It happens to Steph Curry. It happens to any undersized guard or just an elite scorer, Trae Young. Here's the difference. Those guys, though, make up for it on the offensive end. So if Tyler, you're going to get hunted, you need to be more efficient. It wasn't egregious. He was like 7 for, I think, 16 or 17. So it wasn't, or I think it might have been 18. He was shooting like 38% from the field, which wasn't great. He shot better from
No.
3, right?
Yeah.
So, but if you're going to get hunted, you need to step up better. But I think the inverted pick and roll, like, is there a world where Bam can pick on some of those wings or undersized guards in the inverted pick and roll?
Definitely. There was a few, I think there was 2 or 3 times where Bam actually got an inverted pick and roll and got into good position, but instead of actually going up strong, he was foul baiting. And I get it. And he knows, like, listen, like, we need to control the tempo. This is the best way to beat this team, as Jimmy Butler would do when he was here. But also, Bam doesn't get calls, man. He does not get calls. Miami generally doesn't get calls. So he's just got to play through it, man, and just be a little bit more aggressive, which is something that we've all been calling for because we see the potential in him. Uh, by all means, I think the inverted pick and roll, if I'm not mistaken, he was averaging the past 2 seasons above more than 1 point per possession of inverted pick and roll sets. Like he's one of the most efficient players in the league when it comes to inverted pick and rolls. But there's also something else that Tyler himself can do. There's 2 things he can actually do. And it seemed as if at the end of the game, he was figuring that out, right? So Garland typically hedges whenever he is coming in to help, whenever they're trying to do the switch off the pick
Mhm.
and roll. Tyler actually can either split the pick and roll or something that I believe is even more effective. And Jimmy used to do this all the time. Whenever a small would hedge out to Jimmy, Jimmy would toss the ball ahead of him, get his hips outside. So let's say this is Garland and Tyler's coming off of the screen, right? Jimmy would actually toss the ball ahead because the ball's going to always beat the defender. And let's say Garland does not allow Tyler to get out there. Well, Tyler can get the contact, and the ref is going to call that 9 times out of 10. And he's going to get to the line or at least get them closer to the bonus. If Tyler can just throw the ball ahead, right? Not just dribble outside of Garland, but just throw the ball ahead, it forces Garland to kind of ease up a little bit, and it allows Tyler to get around, which
Hmm.
then brings up so many things. You can actually get to the floater. You can get to that mid range. You can toss it to Bam at the free throw line, or you can toss it to Ware for the alley oop. And I think those are just two simple actions that they can do along with the Spain pick and roll that I mentioned before. I think if they just incorporate just Tyler making more better decisions in terms of, okay, am I going to split this? Am I going to dribble outside of Garland? Or can we just run an inverted pick and roll? Because a lot of times they're going to play Tyler up in his chest. If Bam can just recognize that sooner and get around and attack it quickly, I think that's going to allow Miami to just get into better actions, slow the game down, and get to the free throw line.
Yeah, I also want to see Bam. They do the short roll a lot. You see Tyler Duncan, perhaps when they're in the pick and roll with Bam, and he sets a screen and he immediately does like a short. It's not even like a short roll. Sometimes it's more of like it's becoming more of a pick and pop in a sense, but he still moves a little bit low, which I like to see. I think Bam should spam that like initially because obviously that's on tape. They do that a lot, but also he needs to, I think, do more of a traditional deep
Yes.
pick and roll and try to get some easy buckets and catch, especially if Jared Allen's guarding him because he's obviously quicker than him. I think spam that short pick and roll also because Bam, like obviously, like part of his repertoire is that pick and pop, and he's been shooting that mid range more so the second half of the season. First half of the season, he wasn't really going into that midi, that fadeaway, and
Hmm.
when we were doing the 5-out motion, he's shooting more threes, obviously, but I think I like the short roll. I like the inverted pick and roll. I think those are going to be two things that are going to be huge for us, obviously.
Yeah.
And the last question I have before we hop off, what's one bold move you think Spoelstra might surprise us with game two? So you mentioned he has cards up his sleeve. Like I think he has to be bold today, right? Like I don't know, this is not do or die, but like if they actually want to win this series, they're going to have to beat the Cavs in Cleveland at least once. And so this is the best opportunity, I would say. So do you think he has any bold surprise in game two?
I don't think it's a surprise, but I can definitely see him running that 2-2-1 zone. Not not remember I mentioned earlier about Duncan and Tyler being in the game, but I
Yep.
can foresee a scenario where Davion and Haywood are at the top of that zone in a 2-2-1 that's kind of morphing. Not the traditional 2-2-1 that you might see in high school or college, but just one that's morphing. Um, as soon as they inbound the ball, right? So, like similar to what Miami did against Boston game 2 of last year, and I'm sure Cleveland's probably prepared for this, where it was I think it was DeLon Wright and Haywood at the top, where they just not allowing Cleveland to bring the ball up the floor so easily and getting into their actions, and then let Donovan do his thing. I think that's going to be probably the thing that's the bold move, right? And then to kind of touch upon what you were saying before about Bam doing the traditional role, I love that. And the reason why I love that is because it kind of brings Bam back to what he did his first 2 or 3 seasons in the league. But then also, if you have, let's say, a Duncan or a Burks in there, or just anybody in the corner, right? That open, like really the NBA players these days are not trained to leave guys in the corner by themselves. And even if you do, you can have a guy like Haywood in the dunker spot moving side to side. So it just opens up a lot of different triggers for Miami. But yeah, if you were to say one thing that Spo's going to toss out there would be that 2-2-1 or 2-1-2, uh, that morphing zone that he does sometimes where they're playing full court,
Yeah.
where when they cross half court, they're not at 16 seconds, they're at 12. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I also think Kalel, if he's going to start again and Bam's doing that pick and roll, traditional pick and roll, he's going to need to bring whoever's guarding him out of the paint as well. They're not going to respect his three. They're going to allow it. They're going to give him at least a few feet of space, which is fine. I know he took one or two shots from three and didn't make them, but still, I think he's going to need to pull out the big when that happens. Then Bam obviously then can cut to the basket, which could give him an opportunity, or it'll give an opportunity for Kalel to get open again, and hopefully he hits one of those threes and get some confidence from that. I doubt that's going to happen, but we'll see what happens. I'm excited for this game. Before we hop off, what's your prediction tomorrow night? Do you think the Heat pull it off, or do you think the Cavs win?
Yeah, I think Miami pulls it off. I think it'll be a tight game. I think it'll be a game where Miami builds like a double-digit lead, and in the fourth quarter, Cleveland gets closer, but Miami just finds a way to get enough stops to close it out. And then we bring it back to Miami. Not too confident Miami will win this series, but at least I believe it can go 5 or even 6 games.
I thought we said it was going to go 6 or 7 last time we talked.
Maybe that's what I said, but I just don't see a world where Miami can stop this team more than twice defensively. We just don't have, even though we've been a top 10 team all year, when it comes to teams that are top 5, I believe, in offense, which this team is number 1 by offensive rating, I think Miami's ranked like 18. They're middle of the pack defense.
16
So
now. Yeah, they were top 10 most of the year. Then they went back to they went from 9 to 12, and then they started getting worse during that 10
yeah,
game losing streak. So I understand where you're coming from because again, they're the number 1 offensive rated team, the Cavs. But I just don't trust the offense enough. I'm not worried about the defense enough. I think we can perhaps
yeah,
get our stops at times. I just don't think that to make this a 7-game series necessarily. I don't think we have the shooting, the consistency, with Bam and Tyler and Wiggins are our main 3 guys. Where else does that scoring come from?
yeah,
Because they could try to shut down Tyler, and then outside of Wiggins and Bam, is Duncan going to have a 5 or 6 point or 6
yeah,
3-point shooting game? Is Davion going to get you 15 off the bench? Is Hayward going to get you 3-4 threes? I'm more worried about the Heat offensively because they literally shot 43% from 3 and we lost. How many times? I'm going to ask ChatGPT that when we hop off. How many games have the Miami Heat? Maybe not this season because it was a weird season, but last
yeah,
season, shot 43% from 3, making double-digit threes, right? Because they made 13 and lost. I bet you that's a very low percentage for this team. So it's like when the Miami Heat win the rebounding battle, they're almost 98% going to win that game. That doesn't happen for other teams. Maybe 80%, of those games are won by
yeah,
other teams. But for the Heat specifically, if we win the rebounding battle, which is key, and if we shoot well from 40% and above, we usually win. So I'm pissed that we shot that high and
yeah.
wasted that game, essentially. So we'll see. My prediction.
Ty
Ah,
Jerome.
yeah, no, that's not going to happen again, man. Even though he's a good player, but
Yeah,
I think the Heat win. I think the Heat win tomorrow because I'm hearing good things from players like Davion saying that we can't make mistakes. We need much more energy out there. He obviously is a dog. He's a beast. He plays with a bunch of passion, but hearing that he's going to go all out and hopefully he starts and sets a good tone. Andrew Wiggins said, I need to be better. I need to be more aggressive. Talk is cheap. Seeing is believing. I think Bam also has said the same thing. He came out aggressive at the beginning in that
yeah,
first quarter offensively, but his issue is being consistent throughout the game. And then Tyler just getting downhill. He needs to go north and south. He can't be going east and west. He needs to get to the rim, get to the free throw line, like you said, and be more efficient. So
yeah,
I think we win. I'm not going to say we're going to win the series, but I think it can go 6, especially if we win
yeah.
tomorrow. I think we can go 6, but I don't think the Heat can win the series.
Uh,
I'm not delusional
yeah.
yet. But if we win tomorrow, I might be. We'll
I'll tell
see.
you this: we do have an advantage every game, every single game. Now the question is, will he be what has the talent to be? And that's Andrew Wiggins. He should be able to get whoever he wants in the post at any time. He has the skill set. He has the length. The question is, will he do it?
That's why we need to get Garland or even Mitchell. If we get even Strus is a bigger body, he's strong-ish, but Strus is what 6'5", 6'6".
6'5".
Yeah, we need Darius Garland and Mitchell. We need to get Wiggins on a switch on one of those guys, get him
Yep.
in the mid post, low post, and they're gonna have to double team or they're gonna have to foul him. So I think he needs to be more aggressive. I was shocked
Yeah.
that he wasn't as aggressive in trying to get those switches on him. Again, that's like we were saying earlier, they weren't getting Mitchell or Garland in a ton of mismatches or in a ton of actions. I think that's got to be one big adjustment is fighting fire with fire. If you're going to hunt
Yep.
Tyler Hero, we need to hunt their smaller guys too as well.
1000%.
I think we need to do that and focus on that. So we'll see. We'll see if Wiggs is going to be with this team in the future, or is he just a future trade piece. We'll see. I
Yeah.
think it's a future trade piece, but let's see. He's going to be on he has a player option after next season, right? So essentially, it is kind of like a contract year to see if he's going to get an extension from the Miami Heat or from his new team. This is going to be his last opportunity to get one last big contract at age 30 years old. Typically, most NBA players, their primes end at like 33, 34. So he's got to play big, and he's got to play big next year as well if he wants to get that one last bag. So we'll see. But anyway, thanks Gio for hopping on. Before we hop off, want to let the audience know again where they can find you online.
Yeah, definitely. You guys can find me on Twitter at GioValdez _ or on any other social media outlet at Coach Gio _.
Awesome. Thanks again, man. Hope you have a good night.
Thank you. You too.